Okay, everybody, I'm Joanna, and I'm going to be talking about social media listening and analysis tools, and then a little bit about the privacy issues that come along with the use of those tools. Now, what you're looking at here comes from the Industry Trends Report, a fairly recent one, about what it is that clients and researchers are interested in using in the near future. And if you look near the top of that, it's all social media analytics, data mining, text analytics, and so on. So apart from online communities, which obviously everybody's very much into, this whole area of analytics and finding out, listening, hearing what's going on in social media is very, very much top of the mind, especially for clients. This is a kind of client-led move. So what does this online listening actually mean? Well, listening, which I have to say isn't always hearing, is really about, if you like, searching, scraping, mining data, creating alerts, creating trends. The information that's gathered in that way is then usually sorted, deduplicated, and processed in some kind of a way. And generally speaking, there's a technique called natural language processing, which I'll give you an example of in a minute. Once it's processed, then there are all sorts of information dashboards created which have ratings of the sentiment or the degree of buzz about the brand or about the product that's being talked about. And this will become clear as you see my example. So this one comes from something called Consumer Base by NetBase, and there is a video which you can watch. You can watch the whole video on YouTube. But what this shows is the natural language processing, actually looking at a statement that's being put on social media, and you can see it learns to recognize emotions, it learns to recognize brands, it learns to recognize reasons. So all of this is processed, and then it's put into a dashboard, an example of which you can see here. So if you look in the center there, you've got a list of the emotions that have been picked up from the social media, and then also a separate list of behavior. And underneath that, you can see the actual sound bites, so that it's quite easy to click on a particular word or emotion and then drill down to find out where that came from. You can also see in the top left there are sets of so-called insights and also domains, which shows you where the information itself has come from. So people who subscribe to a professional service like this will get an update, say probably every morning as soon as they log in, to see what the latest buzz about their brand or their product has been. And if we look a little bit further on, it claims to analyze insights and themes, and in a wonderful example of the kind of playing fast and loose with language that one gets in this area, one lot of insights that NetBase provide are called confirmational insights. To you and me, that means stuff that you already knew. But anyway, as you can see, there the insights or the information is categorized in various ways, and if you choose to click, you can drill down exactly and to see who is saying what about your brand. So this is the sort of stuff that's getting clients very, very excited, because it means they have an ongoing stream of information about what's happening with their brand, and indeed early warning if there are any problems, as well as information of generally how their brand is growing and developing and reacting to things. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about the different types of search tools that are available. So one type is keyword tools. And this is just finding out how people search for something. And Google has some tools that show you how people are searching, and it can show you the trends for that search over time. I'll give you a brief example in a minute. Then there are general monitoring tools, some of which are free at a basic level, although most of these companies are obviously very keen on trying to make some money out of their tools. And if you don't want to be paying for one of the professional ones, you can use one of these and simply do the legwork of deduplicating and analysing yourself. Then you have the tools that are to do with sorry, it's not coming up on the screen. For analysing social media habits of your customers. And again, I'll show you an example of this, because basically once you've got your customer's email address, you can find out a lot more about them. Loads and loads of tools for Twitter, because it's a very open API, and therefore lots of developers have created tools that you can search and analyse on Twitter. Similarly, well, not so much for Facebook, but if you want to look at a Facebook page, you can look at fan counts, interaction, get lots of analyses there from Facebook. And then you've got the professional social media monitoring tools that I've just given you an example of. And finally, don't forget that if you're doing this yourself, you want to be doing it for example, as background research for a client, you get loads and loads of information just from things like Amazon and Wikipedia and so on. So there are a ton of different tools you can use, and you can either pay for things or not pay for things, depending on how much effort you're prepared to put into them. So now I'm just going to go through some examples of the tools, in as much as this is going to allow me to do that. So this is an example of Google Trends, showing the searches for qualitative research since 2004, and also quite usefully where the high points are, it shows you what it is there that people in particular have been searching for. And you can change the timeline or whatever as you wish with that. Okay, so after this, Ronix, this is one for searching on Twitter, where you can analyse the sentiment, if you like, the number of mentions that have been made of a brand, whether they're positive or negative, and also you can look at the people who have been most influential in terms of tweets being sent out and indeed retweeted from that. Here's Social Mention, which is the free version, and just as a test I did something about Parcel, and although I did do advanced search and say I needed English, it did come up with a couple of other languages, and also strangely recipes for parsley salad, and I think that Parcel probably means parsley in some other language. And now this starts to show you some of the drawbacks of doing this kind of social media listening, because what you will do is not only get the comments that are being made directly, but you'll get comments that are being made by people who want to sell the stuff. You'll get comments that seem to relate to something completely different, and the natural language processing doesn't always take account of that. What it does is it just tells you what the numbers are and gives you a rough idea of what the actual sentiment there is. So it is worth, if you are doing something like this yourself, taking a bit of time to go through what comes up. Okay, this is the Query application, which is finding out a little bit more about your own customers. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure of the data protection implications of this, but I guess since they are already your customers and you do own some identifiable data about them, it's probably okay to go and find out a little bit more about them and how active they are in social media. These are the professional solutions that I mentioned earlier, just a small selection of them really, because there are a great deal of them, and companies keep being bought by other companies, so the names will change, but the solutions themselves are similar. And even with these, it's important to remember that the way in which they work does vary. And this is a piece of research from Fresh Minds Research, who did exactly the same search on a number of different professional platforms. And as you can see, they've got very, very different volume of mentions from different kinds of platforms. So at the moment, it's all a little bit difficult to compare. But I'm sure over time it will kind of move together in a way in which the metrics can be much more easily and consistently measured. So just to finish on that part, the moral about listening is really that these kind of insights are really, really valuable, and I think are often a good start for any kind of a project that you're going to be doing. But because the natural language processing is in general about 80% accurate, a bit of brain work also helps a good deal here. And I would also say that if you're given some information that's come from one of these sources, it is worth questioning the client and asking them where it came from and what it's actually based on, because that information can vary depending on the platform. So just to move on very quickly to some of the privacy and code issues that have been raised by these platforms, fundamentally what we're seeing is a division between the people who are working in this arena of researching the, if you like, the kind of free information that's put online by social media, and traditional market researchers, market research agencies. So here I have, there is actually a video online that you can watch where there is a debate about all of this. And here we have somebody who's talking about the fact that competitors to market research who are not signed up to any research code of conduct are just wading ahead and using this information on the basis that if it's in the public domain, then it's something that they should be able to use. If it's not password protected, there is no reason why they shouldn't use it. So a lot of the new digital agency competitors to market research are moving ahead, and basically our codes of conduct, the codes that we as researchers work by, are out of date and are holding us back. Now, on the other side of that, here we have Barry Ryan, who's in charge of standards at MRS and FAMRO, saying that as far as market research is concerned, when you are online, you're not just observing other people, you're observing their data. And in many cases, the data is actually identifiable. It's only if people are using some strange kind of handle that you don't know who they are. But very often people tweet or Facebook as themselves or a version of themselves or their company. So basically what he's saying is that the strict way of looking at this is that it is online data and it should be treated as in-person data and should be subject to the code of practice, which means going to great lengths to kind of anonymize any of the information that comes out of this. And some of that can be done, but in other ways it's going to cause quite a lot of problems for social media analytics, as you can see with that kind of drilling down into where things have come from. Now, what Ray Pointer is saying is that fundamentally he thinks that commercial MR is going to split from social research. Social research can still use the code and as it stands, but there should be a new way of looking at the ethics of new market research, which needs to be based on the law, I love the statement of not doing things likely to outrage the public, because this is something that we do need to find out more about, and emphasising the need to be open and honest. So in one respect, what this means is that we need to be looking at what is it that the public themselves actually feel is right in terms of the use of their data. And there is some information about this, but really just not enough. The top chart here shows something about when social media users feel it's okay for a brand to pick up on a posting on Facebook or Twitter and respond directly to them, whether it's a positive or a negative posting. And you can see that people feel if they've written directly on a brand's website or on their Facebook, yes, for 40–50% it's okay for the brand to respond. But for other numbers, it's really, they don't want brands talking back to them when they're in the kind of social media arena. And then at the bottom, I believe this piece of research was maybe carried out in Canada, and I haven't got the details of the research, but basically 60% of social media users disagree that companies should be allowed to collect information from public forums. So fundamentally, it's about, how do people feel about market researchers reading and using their conversations? Because most people, when they're on Facebook or Twitter, imagine in their mind that they're maybe talking to a group of their friends, and they know somewhere at the back of their mind that the conversation might be going further. But they're really maybe not all that comfortable with market researchers using this information. So there's a whole debate to be had, and everything is moving on very rapidly. The Market Research Society guidelines about this are due to come out in January, so I think that's going to be the next step when we find out what will be going on with that. So I'll be interested to hear what other people's comments are. Thank you all for listening in the traditional manner today. And now I'm going to hand back to Arthur.